Hi, I'm Al Baldessaro, and this is the show is Who's Looking Out for You. I have some special guests here today that came in and wanted to talk about a campaign. I have Jack Kimball, who in a minute we're going to give him an opportunity to tell us who he is, and the former Senator Bob Smith. Jack, welcome to Londonderry. It's an honor having you here.
Al, good to see you.
Senator, it's always
Good to
a
see you,
pleasure.
Al. Thank you.
Welcome. Jack, before we get started, I want you to actually introduce Senator, because you're now the campaign manager. First of all, tell a little bit about yourself on how we got involved with the GOP and how we backed you 150% over when you ran and what you did for GOP and then how you got on board with Bob Smith.
You know, it's an interesting story, I think, for a lot of people, is that I never intended to get involved in politics other than being an active voter and always supported the Republican Party in my tenure here in New Hampshire. I moved here in 1971. Actually, the senator moved to New Hampshire just a tad prior to that. So, been here a long, long time. But I'm a businessman. I had a business in Portsmouth, still do. We just moved it to Rochester. And during that period of time, we had Barack Obama running for office. That didn't make me very happy, and so I decided I had to do something about that. So I started putting things up on my sign. I had this reader board sign out front, and Portsmouth is in the most liberal area in the state, but
Right.
the sign garnered a lot of attention. And basically one day, Portsmouth Herald reporter came in and asked me, could she do an interview with me and the sign? And I basically was a little leery about that. I said, I'm not sure, I'd rather have a conservative person do that interview. And she convinced me she was, that her dad, she grew up in a military family and so forth. Long story short, she did a great interview. The sign wound up getting me on live on Fox and Friends, and as time progressed, we had the biggest Tea Party ever during that period of time in Manchester, and I spoke there. Never spoke before in front of a crowd, and soon after, I was approached by Clear Channel Radio to have my own radio show, which is not something I ever thought of. So I teamed up with Jeff Chittister, Jeff,
Yes,
and we
great
started
guy.
off and went we paired up and did a show, and next thing I know, people are asking me to run for governor, and I decided I would do it, and that's what I did. And it was an amazing run. I was one out of 4 candidates in a primary. I was defeated by John Stevens in a very aggressive but very friendly primary, and helped him out when he won.
Right. You definitely were a team player.
Well, I think that's what we should be. We should be people that believe in our platform. We should be a party that gets behind it, 100%. I mean, to me, that's what it should be about. If you're a Republican and you have an approved platform, you ought to stand for it. And so I did, and still do, as does the senator. So, here I am. Years later, I got behind Karen Testament initially for the candidacy for U.S. Senate. Bob entered the race as well. We have Jim Rubens in the race, and of course Scott Brown. We don't see Scott very much, but he's in the race, and I can reveal it now. Early on, we knew we had 2 stand-up principal candidates for running for U.S. Senate, constitutional conservatives, both in Karen and in the senator, and we met a couple times prior to a decision, which was to. And both of them agreed to it, shook hands, and hugged on it, which was basically, we can't lose this election because pride gets in the way of good common sense. The idea is that you're both good candidates, but at some point, just before the registration week, we have to have an agreement there'll only be one come out of that week. And to both their credit, and they both agreed to that. And at the time, we didn't know what criteria would lead us to the person. Right. But they agreed. It turned out to be Karen, and God, to her credit, she did a very selfless thing, and she stepped out and endorsed Bob, and that really gave us that one true principled constitutional conservative in this race for the U.S. Senate. And we now
before
have,
you go on, did anything help you there because he's a Navy veteran, and you're a Navy veteran? Did that help your decision making? You Navy guys stick together.
Yeah, well, we do stick together, particularly when it comes to the Marines.
Mm-hmm.
But I will also say that Bob and I have gotten to know each other very well over these past several months. And Bob and I didn't know each other in prior years, but I voted for him every time out. And the more and more we're around each other, more and more we realize, other than the difference in height, we're pretty much twins. But he's such a principled guy. I mean, the whole time he was in Congress and the U.S. Senate, he stuck to his guns. He never wavered. And you talk about granite and the granite state, that's this man. And you know me.
Right.
There's no way I would be involved or get behind or even think of being a campaign manager for anyone but this guy.
Well, I can tell you straight up now, friends of mine, and of course, you know, I'm a Liberty Constitution. I'm one of the tri-chairs of the House Republican Alliance. And we stick by the Constitution, the platform. When people hearing that Jack Kimball's involved in your campaign, eyes have opened up, okay? Because they know, and this man has a lot of respect, you know, out there with the Tea Party, with the 9/11 group, or 9/12s, and all these other groups of Liberty Caucus and all, you know, that are out there. So, well, you definitely have a key player there. Good decision there in bringing him on board. But I'll let you go on.
Well, I don't want to take up too much of the time, only to say that...
Introduce your guest here then.
Yeah, but for me, it came down to talking to my wife about this because this is not something I was thinking of doing. And the senator called me after the merger. And the one thing I want to tell people is that we didn't lose a soul. I mean, you know, you would think that when you had the merger of two campaigns, that you would have some fallout. You would have some people leave. That did not happen. So we kept 100% of both teams. And I think that, you know, I knew all the players. I knew virtually 100% of the people. And I think that probably entered it, I don't know, but I think it entered into the senator's decision, which was, you know, I know everybody. I certainly know I can bring the teams together and give it the continuity we needed. So I talked to my wife about it because it's a lot of work, and I, you know, I have other things going on in my life. And, you know, Donna Marie was hit hard by other circumstances in prior years. And but you know what? She's a hell of a woman, and she just said, you know what? Yeah, it's time. Let's do it. So that's how we made the decision. That's how it happened.
You want to introduce your
I'm
candidate
very
then?
happy to introduce him. And I want everyone to know that in this man, they've got a warrior, a principled guy that will always stand for the Constitution and this great republic of ours. He's proven it. This isn't something that people don't. They have a record. They can go and take a look at everything he's done. And compare it with everything anyone else has done that's running against him. He's the clear winner in all areas. And I'm very proud to introduce Senator Bob Smith, the next senator, again, for New Hampshire. That's what's going to happen. The primary, by the way, is September 9th. I expect all of you to come out and vote for this man.
Well, what can I say? Jack, the great introduction and a great guy. And it's true, we didn't know each other prior to are getting together. But I have to say, you know, when you take two teams and put them together, I don't care if it's politics or business or whatever, you know, you have to have some anxieties about it. But it's been seamless from Karen on her side right down through the ranks. I mean, people have been wonderful. And believe me, it is a heroic thing and a brave and courageous thing for Karen to do what she did. That's not easy to put your dream aside and merge with another candidate. I admire her for it tremendously, and as I say, it's been really, really amazing how our teams have come together. And I know poor Jack, you know, he was remodeling his kitchen, and I'm not sure his wife's going to vote for him.
She's not just going to lose her kitchen again.
But really, I mean, this is the kind, you know, it's a shame, Al, you're in politics too, you know, if people only really understood the kind of commitment that the folks, the word grassroots is used so much, and it is overused, but I don't think it's overly always clear what it means.
That's right.
It's a fact. I mean, people give so much. And then you see some other candidates, you know, that fly from 30,000 feet and barrel into a room and barrel out again, hi, glad, and boom, out to go, you know, just dropping money and polls and all that stuff. That's not what politics should be, especially New Hampshire. I mean, this is the retail state where people have to meet a presidential candidate 3 or 4 times before they decide to vote for them. And we're doing that, retail. I mean, it's incredible. We'll get into some of the stuff that we're doing, I'm sure, a little bit later. But it's just amazing, the energy, and people Jack sitting out there with his pickup truck with a big old Bob Smith sign in it. And we got a fleet of these trucks. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, we got, what, a dozen at least out there. And every time I open my computer, there comes another truck out of this guy's barn, Kevin, who's helping us, you know, with another sign in it. I mean, this is the energy. This is what politics should be. It's the good part of politics.
You're in the
People-
trenches. You're getting
in the
down in
trenches,
and meeting people in their home.
meeting people,
That's
doing
right.
the things. But it's not just me. I
Well,
mean,
you-
these folks are doing it at their own expense.
Well, you were in a strong conservative town here in Londonderry, which is very concerned with taxes and spending.
Yeah.
How are you going to make a difference in Washington over what's going on? Because you know, every time you raise taxes, you're taking away somebody's quality of life. You're taking food off somebody's table, or maybe a trip to Florida or here or there. How are you going to make a difference?
Well, I mean, first of all, if you look back, and Jack just mentioned it, my record is pretty solid very solid on things like taxes and spending and so forth, and and regulation, that I don't support any of that stuff. I'm not going to vote for tax increases. I'm not going to vote for increased regulations on business, such as Dodd-Frank, which one of my opponents, Mr. Brown, voted for proudly, he said, which is a huge regulatory nightmare.
Really hurting the businesses.
Yeah, it hurts
that's right.
business big time. So the way to help the people in Londonderry and in every other town, if you're in small business, cut regulations, cut capital gains, and give businesses the opportunity to get rid of Obamacare, and get the regulations and the stupid requirements that businesses have to deal with, but taxes for sure. I mean, it's just, you can't. I don't know how anybody starts a business today. I mean, with the increase in taxes, with the regulations, and that's where the left is going with this stuff. And so I'm going to be there to cut those taxes, to try to get, if we can, repeal Obamacare, repeal all of these regulations that are out there, Dodd-Frank, and any of it if we can. I'm only one vote, but you know, somebody's got to lead on this stuff.
You know, if you're going to do that, and I understand you've done that in the past, one of the big things that I see, at least I see as a state rep for the last 8 years, and I'm a former chairman, state and federal relations, I see more and more people on food stamps and welfare. Now, are you willing to push and go back to the welfare to work program to get more people back to work and off the government dole?
Oh, you bet.
So that way there's more taxes coming in?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, hey, work for your money. I mean, this is I don't understand the whole lot. It's interesting, isn't it, that that there's not enough money for a veteran to come into the VA after he's been diagnosed with a cancer or some other horrible disease. He can't get back in to see his doctors because allegedly there's not enough money. Well, but there's always enough money for the welfare stuff and get food stamps and illegal aliens to get money and to be, I mean, it's ridiculous and it's wrong, and we got to stop it. And the only way you're going to stop it, Al, and you know this, is you got to vote to throw these people out. Period. Jean Shaheen is an Obama clone. She votes with the guy 99% of the time. She's a clone. You can't blame it all on Obama. He can't pass anything without the Senate helping him and the House helping him.
Right.
So those are the candidates you got to get out.
Well, I tell you, we got more and more people that are on food stamps, and I feel for, you know, you got to first of all, put your emotions aside, and you know, especially on some of the votes like here, Medicaid expansion in New Hampshire, one of the biggest mistakes we made in New Hampshire was taking that on. And you can, what damage will that do? And either one can jump into New Hampshire here
I
in a
think
few years.
Medicaid expansion is Obamacare. I mean,
Right.
I was stunned, to be honest with you, you know, to have even Republican senators vote for this. It just doesn't make
I
any
was
rational
shocked
sense. And
myself.
by the way, we still don't know what this is going to cost. Have no clue. What you're going to wind up with is a much larger number than everybody is talking about. But I want to get back to your comment about welfare in general. I think we all agree that welfare is really supposed to be a helping hand up for a short period of time. And in my personal opinion, the simplest solution, although it's not easily accomplished, to welfare in general is a good job. And I mean, it really is that simple. If you turn this economy around, if you unleash the entrepreneurship of our entrepreneurs in this country and turn them loose, and as the senator is saying, get rid of these oppressive regulatory issues and regulations that we and I'm a small businessman, that we face every day, and give us incentivization to get out there, and that's nothing more than getting rid of these issues. Then you've got an opportunity to create jobs, get a booming economy back, and the idea being is that you want to get people away from this right now, what's becoming a way of life, which is what welfare has become, instead of that helping hand up. I don't mind helping anybody,
Right.
neither do
Oh,
you.
without a doubt.
But you've got to have a time limit on help. You got to help yourself, and you got to want to live the American dream, which is an equal opportunity for everybody, without equal outcomes. It's the opportunity that's key here. But I mean, I would like to think that people would like to have a better life than being on welfare.
Right. Well, you know, so what I want to do is jump into another area here that's very near and dear to my heart. Being an old retired Marine, is of course what's going on in the world. I mean, look at I'm so disgusted over Benghazi, us losing an ambassador, and Hillary Clinton said, well, what does it matter? Because they're investigating, the families want to know what happened to their kids.
Yeah.
You know.
It's typical of this administration. I mean, whether it's Fast and Furious, Benghazi, the NSA spying, the harassment by the IRS, where she takes the Fifth Amendment, the commissioner of the IRS, on and on, and then loses her emails for the last 2 years.
What are you going to do to fix this?
Well, first of all, you have to replace the people that are doing this. I mean, this man, the President of the United States, has got to be replaced, and that's 2016. But we also have to have a Congress that's willing to really take the bull by the horns and get into the oversight responsibilities that they have. They're not doing it. I mean, we need to demand answers. I mean, I'm so tired of hearing Obama say, "We're going to get to the bottom of this. This is outrageous. I'll not tolerate it." Well, anybody been held accountable for any of this stuff?
It's all lip service.
Nothing.
Right.
Nobody's been held accountable. And especially Benghazi, where 4 good men were murdered by terrorists. They tried to say it was caused by some movie. I mean, they've lied throughout. He lied in the debate against Governor Romney when he ran for president, re-election. And I mean, it just goes on and on down the line. I mean, you have to hold these people accountable.
Right.
And you got to, it's oversight. Have hearings, have investigations, do what you have to do, and most importantly, hold people accountable. When it's done, put people in jail.
That's right.
Remove them from office and put them in jail. That's a crime. You're covering it up. I mean, look at what happened to Nixon. Justifiably, he covered up. He didn't commit the crime, but he covered it up.
That's right. The
Well,
wiretap.
maybe we might have a little bit of committing and covering up in this case.
Well, you know what many people don't realize, an attack on an embassy or a safe house is an attack on America. That's considered American land.
That is.
You know, even though it's in another country, and I know I try to do embassy duty as a Marine, never got an opportunity, but the Marines that we have there, that is America, that land in those countries. And here we are sitting back, not doing nothing. We captured one guy, and we're parading him like, look what we did. That's a bunch of BS. It should have never happened. But anyways, on Benghazi, we'll move on like the issue here on Russia. There's a lot of concerns of what's going on Russia, because if Russia becomes a superpower, do we got another Hitler? Do we have something that down the pike here that could happen here? The stronger these countries get, who knows? Especially when they have nuclear.
Well, I think that when you talk about Putin and Russia, well, let's be honest, it's not just Putin and Russia. We're talking Iran. We're talking what's going on in Syria. We're talking about what did happen in Libya. We're talking about what did happen in Egypt. All of these things. And in my view, the lack of American leadership in the world is causing this. You take somebody like Putin, and if it's Ronald Reagan that's president, this wouldn't be happening, all right? And nor would most of the other things that are going on. And part of the thing that people got to realize is that the United States of America has always been a force for good in the world. And the idea that, we have a president that has to go out and feel compelled to apologize for everything the United States stands for and has done is a disgrace. But that's what he's done. And in fact, he admittedly leads from behind. Well, you're seeing the result of what happens from leading from behind. This president has actually ceded all moral authority in these cases. He plays golf. He doesn't even go to the border when he goes to Texas.
No,
he goes to a fundraiser instead when all of this is going on at the border. I'm convinced it's all orchestrated. And he doesn't want to go there because he's not unhappy this is happening. You know, and that's the tragedy of
And
all this.
if you look at the body language, when you see Putin and Obama together, and you look at Putin's body language, I mean, you can tell he has no respect for Obama at all. And Obama is weak.
That's right.
in terms of the weak in terms of his relationship with Russia, because Putin knows he can take advantage of him, because that's the whole attitude: bring America down to a level that which somehow we have to pay for all the colonialism that we've done over the past 200 years. Well, I mean, I'm sorry that's the perception, Mr. President, but there were guys that scaled those cliffs at Normandy. That wasn't colonialism. That was removing, Adolf Hitler from the face of the earth. Thank God. So, it's just Reagan. You mentioned President Reagan. Reagan said it best: peace through strength. The only thing the dictators and hardcore people like that really understand is strength. And you can't. We took the missiles out that over in in Western Europe. So now, what message does that send? And so here he goes. He can move into the Ukraine now, Putin, and so what?
That's right.
Nothing's
no
going to
big deal.
happen.
You ain't kidding. I served 5 presidents in my time. 2 of them gutted the military, and I was there where we had no money for training, beans, bullets. We sat around a lot, the military there, because of lack of money there and all the cuts. Clinton cut the intelligence there. I see, as a military guy, deja vu. Once again, here we go again with all the cuts. You're going to cut and destroy the military, and then all of a sudden something happens like what happened to George Bush when he stepped in. He had to build the military back up in order to be able to deploy.
But it's even, that's absolutely right what you said. What even makes it worse is you ask the military to do more with less.
That's right.
I mean, we're all over the place. I mean, anything could happen in Korea on any moment. You still have remnants in Iraq. You're still in Afghanistan. Anything could happen in Israel. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's just you put pressure on these people. And Jack and I, and he may want to comment on this as well, when we went to visit some of the troops who were passing through on the way to Afghanistan, and a couple of weeks ago. And these young guys, we asked them what was the main concern, and they said the rules of engagement. Our hands tied behind our back.
So
we can't fire till
disgusted
we're
over
fired
that.
at.
That's right.
I mean, come on. I mean, these guys are risking their lives, and they have to wait till somebody shoots at them.
That's why we have more deaths right now going on here.
It's
over
true.
there in
And
Afghanistan.
it's not only ROE, but what we have done, and the senator's absolutely right, we have stressed these folks to the max. When you have, and they'll tell you, some of these younger guys have been there 4, 5, 6 times.
5 tours, one guy told us.
You're a prior Marine. I mean,
served
you
in
know
Desert
what
Storm.
that does, okay, not only to yourself, but
Right.
your family.
Oh,
If you're
whatever.
a married Marine and you got kids, young kids, okay, and you're in a stressful combat environment multiple times, you're having terrible difficulties when you're coming back dealing with this stuff.
You always remember, and it's a shame it comes back at night. When your eyes are closed and you start thinking there. I mean, I still smell burnt bodies in tanks. You know what I mean? I don't understand. I can never get the smell out of it. You know what I mean? You'll see arms and legs and, blown up from the bombs when I went into Kuwait. But that stuff, you never get rid of it. You just learn how to deal with it. And only, of course, the strong survive. Some there, 2, 3, 4, 5 tours of seeing this.
I don't.
It never goes away.
All of us got. Excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you. All of us in the military understand what op tempo means. I don't think Obama has a clue
No, he
what
doesn't.
it means.
That's
but
why.
when we talked to this one guy, Jack is right. He said 5 tours in all of those areas: Afghanistan, Iraq, back and forth, and that's a lot of stress. As Jack said, you got to come back home. You got a family, and then you're yanked back out again. Your life is, you want to be there with your buddies. You want to do your duty, but you're held back from doing your duty by those who in
Bob,
power who don't.
That's why it's
know what they're
important to have
doing.
a veteran in office who understands when they fund these wars and other stuff, they realize and understand what went on, what goes on. It's very important, to get a veteran in there.
But in the Middle East, in that area in Afghanistan, Iraq, we all know it's a religious cultural war. It's been going on since
We're not gonna
Muhammad
win.
died in
That's right.
632 A.D. For God's sake.
I seen it when I was in Kuwait, when we freed Kuwait. They thank you, but then they go right back to hating American because of our religion.
If you're an
beliefs.
indigenous force, you're somebody who's trying to work with the Americans, and you know that they're leaving, and you got the date, you know when they're going to leave.
Oh, it's suicide.
Well, exactly. They
Right.
know what's going to happen to them the moment
Right.
Americans leave. So they turn.
Right.
And then you wind up see some bunch of Americans get shot by indigenous forces that
I
are
know
supposed to be
George
on their
Bush,
side.
George Bush put it out, you know, when he signed the treaty or whatever it was, till sometime in 2014 or whatever it was. But there was no month, no day, no nothing. But anyways, I know we've got about another 20 minutes, 15 minutes. There's some other areas that I wanted to go into that was very important and that affects New Hampshire residents. And let's go back to the Obamacare. Many of the union workers or workers in New Hampshire don't realize in the end of 2015, I think, beginning of 2016, the money that's being paid, like for instance, town employees on their Cadillac health plan is going to be considered what they call money salary.
It's income.
They're going to have to pay taxes on that money. How do we stop this here Obamacare? I mean, do you have a game plan how to protect the people, the working people in New Hampshire, so they're not taxed more money with this health care?
Well, I think. Let me say this, and I can give you a great example. This happened last week. We've been thrown in. I didn't realize at the age that I'm at that I had to have Medicare. I mean, I was stunned because I was on my wife's policy. My wife left the job that she had. She's a nurse, and because of that, the only insurance that I can get, is Medicare. So she's now on COBRA. And so what she was doing was calling up and getting pricing through the exchange, God help us. And I was sitting there and a witness to this. And so she called up and she had already filled the application out online. So she wanted to call and get a physical person to talk to, make sure she had done it right. When she filled in the blank about how many people, she thought the blank said how many people are in your household. She put 3, which is my mother-in-law, she and I. But in reality, what that question really was how many will be insured on the plan.
Right.
All right, so she had 3. That was a mistake. She didn't know it. But the quote that she got, because she entered 3 people in the household that were going to be covered, was $398 a month, and she was stunned that it was so low, So when she got the woman on the phone and they were going through the application to confirm all of the information, there was a mistake. The mistake was she entered 3, should have been 1. She's the only one. I'm covered by Medicare now, so she would be the only one covered by health insurance. What do you think the cost went to? Same plan, no
probably
difference.
Tripled.
$700.
Yeah, yeah.
It doubled. Okay, only because, and that's the other thing she put down. Her income
What was the
45
copayment?
grand. It's based on income, and think about this for a minute. Okay, all of us who are out there working hard and so on and so forth, and maybe making a decent living, are going to be paying for everyone else that isn't. And one of the problems that I have with this is simply, for the same plan A, whatever it is, if you're buying an automobile and you go in and you're going to buy X automobile for $50,000, okay, what you're doing now is equating this to income. So if Al Baldessaro goes in and he's making $100,000 a year, and I go in and I'm making $50,000 a year, think of this. I go in and I can buy that car for $35,000. They're going to charge you $75,000 because you're making more money than I am, so you ought to be able to afford, paying more for that vehicle. It's the same thing on health care, okay? It is so wrong, and that's why the court just ruled, the federal court, just ruled in saying that subsidies are illegal, that they can't be doing that.
I was glad
you
to
should
see
be
that.
able to
That's right.
pay the same dollar value for the same
As
product.
everybody else.
It's
That's
got to
right.
be repealed. It's
It's-
got to be
that's what has to
flat out
happen.
repealed. That's my position. And there are things that we need to preserve, but we repeal this bill, we can preserve portability, pre-existing conditions, and so forth. Get the market involved. There, 13 hospitals can't even service patients now with this. We've driven all of the healthcare. Shaheen drove all the healthcare providers out of the state when she was governor.
Sure did.
And now there's 1 left and maybe 2, and there used to be 20 or 30. So and the competition is gone. And this is the goal, Al, is to have a national healthcare system run by the federal government. Period.
Yeah, take a look at the VA.
Right. Oh yeah.
There you have it.
You ain't kidding.
And I had a doctor, a friend of mine, tell me that if you what you see in the VA, that's Obamacare in 10 years. So
Well, I
get used to it.
have 2 doctors here in my town that said they can't afford to stay in business under
No.
Medicaid
They
because they
can't.
pay 30% on the dollar, and they can't afford to stay in business and pick up the rest of the cost.
They want to have
You know?
the whole thing run by the federal government,
Right.
and pay the doctors. That's the whole goal.
And then you need the government, Big Daddy, making decisions on whether go on, go to Dana-Farber.
The frustrating thing is that we all sit around and we do it on these programs, and we do it in our living rooms and our breakfast tables, and we talk about these problems, but it really boils down to one basic thing. We're electing the wrong people.
That's right.
We gotta elect the right people. It's not that complicated.
Right.
If we could just get rid of the people who are doing this to us. I mean, why does a guy have to go into a school board meeting? His daughter's 13 or 14-year-old daughter's asked to read filthy, disgusting passages in this book. He tries to quote from it because they won't listen to him, and they throw him in jail. And that's America.
It's New Hampshire.
It's
Right.
New Hampshire,
America.
let alone
Hampshire,
America.
right.
And yet people say, why does this happen? Because we elect the people that do it. Let's
right.
throw them out. That's why I think when this campaign, getting down to what I'm talking about here is, Ronald Reagan used to say, no pale pastels, bold colors. Who are we? Who are we as Republicans? Are we the weak, squishy, I'm a little bit pro gun, but I'm also anti-gun. Well, I'm for Dodd-Frank. That's not the Republican Party. That's blending people in the middle, and no one is going to know the difference. They want to know who we are and who they are. Bold, bright line. That's me. You put me up against Shaheen, the people in New Hampshire will know who the Republican conservative is and who the left is. And if you want more freedom, you should vote for me. You want less freedom, you want her.
That's
you
right.
want more people being thrown in handcuffs for talking about their children's school book, then vote for her, because she's the one that's responsible for letting this stuff happen.
I'm glad you brought this up because, you're talking on the education. I was one of the co-sponsors on the repeal Common Core. Common Core, one size does not fit all. I mean, I have 7 children. Yeah. Every one of them is a different way in their education,
right.
or their, how they, like a sponge take in this information. I just think we're leading ourselves down the road to destruction.
We are.
And,
one size fits all. You're right. I mean, that's Obamacare.
Right.
That's everything. I mean, it's everything. It's the whole approach that these people use.
When you look through to Common Core, you see not only is it one size fits all, but it's the selective one size. I mean, you got the left picking and choosing what's going to be taught in the school systems. You have everyone learning, and there's a lot of misinformation on our history. The math is out the window. It's just absolutely, you can't as a parent even figure out how to help your kid with the way that they've structured the math. Look, the day we remove local control from our education is the day we started to lose this
Right.
country.
Right.
We have allowed the federal government, if you will, through multiple, it isn't just Barack Obama, but through multiple administrations to take control, if you will, of the education of our children. And the one size fits all, whether it be Goals 2000 or, it doesn't matter, they're all similar programs, and now it's Common Core, which I think is even worse. What we have got to do is push as a country, whether it be the senator getting elected and pushing for local control once again, because that's when it really works. When you and your community and your school boards and the parents get involved and you determine your curriculum locally and teach your kids their curriculum locally. That was the best of the best
Right.
when we
And Al, whether it's Obamacare, Common Core, these regulations that are put on by the feds are rigid. They don't have the flexibility that you need. For example, a patient and a doctor and a family, and the family should make a decision about what perhaps health procedure somebody
Right.
might need. But that's not going to be the case
Nope.
under Obamacare. It's the same thing in education, in Common Core, different but the same, in the sense that, look, these conditions are the way they are, so we can't opt out.
Right.
And that's exactly what they want. I mean, what is the end goal here? We have basically all these nations around the world who basically moved away from socialism or trying to, and here we are moving into it. I mean, it's really bizarre, and I hope we can save our country, but
I don't know if you're aware, here in New Hampshire, we passed under Bill O'Brien's house, we passed some laws there where giving parents their rights to opt out of certain courses that are, derogatory or whatever, and making a big difference in a lot of families. But the thing is, we still have the problem with the federal government overreaching. They're throwing money at our state education. They're accepting this money like Common Core without any legislative authority, and they're pushing it down.
Well, then you're gonna
and
have an
cities and
unfunded
towns like
mandate.
little puppets okay, we'll do it because they're getting extra money, and that money is only there for so long.
Yeah, that's
Because-
what's going to
But
happen in Medicaid.
therein lies the crux of the problem. And it always has been that way, money.
That's right.
You're taking federal dollars, and every time you do, I don't care if it's a grant, I don't care if it's whatever deal you strike, there's always strings attached. And those strings are usually pretty negative and very restrictive. And the point being, the money does go away, it dissipates over
That's
time.
right,
So
yeah.
you're left, you being the state, left holding the bag for the yeoman portion of this funding down the road, and that's why your property taxes, the taxes continue to climb, is because of decisions like this.
Right.
We've got to knock off taking the money. We don't need it. Get back to local control and education and knock off taking the money for a lot of the other federal programs.
Now, we want to clarify, just like in your case on the federal side and then on the state side, when you say the state or the federal government, well, that's us. That's our pockets. That's every
Yeah.
individual taking more money
exactly.
out of their pocket in order
you're right.
to take care of the needs of, the overspending.
Yeah, Phil Graham used to say when you get more people riding in the wagon than pulling the wagon, you got a problem.
That's right, and that's
And-
what's
and that's
happening
what's
today,
happening.
Yeah.
especially here in New Hampshire, because even though we're 4.2 on unemployment, that's terrible. We got so many people that are off the rolls, not being accountable, that aren't working, that aren't in those numbers here. We should be enticing all these
Well,
companies, like Right to Work and other
Sure,
things,
and
bringing them in.
And that's where the jobs are created, by small businesses.
That's right.
But people today, like we said earlier in the show, are so regulated, so overtaxed, that they can't start a business. If they do, it takes them forever to get it started, and then they have to struggle
Mm-hmm.
to pay the taxes. I mean, we have trillions, with a T, trillions of dollars offshore with companies now
right.
because they got out of
Yep.
here, took jobs with them in order to get away from these regulations and taxes so they can function. Now, Obama says we ought to hunt them down. I'm paraphrasing, but hunt them down and tax them and fine them. I say bring them back.
That's right.
Give them tax
Welcome.
amnesty. Create jobs. Create jobs.
That's
Bring
right.
this money back on shore. We'll cut your regulations.
Mm-hmm.
We'll cut your corporate taxes, and we'll let you produce and create jobs. That's what would happen. You can't. He wants to redistribute the wealth.
That's a
well, you got
shame,
somebody's
right.
got to create the wealth.
You ain't kidding.
Or you
Somebody-
can't have anything.
Well,
to
you know, you hit
redistribute.
it right on the nose, in the beginning there when you brought up Regulation Dodd-Frank. Because what that did was tie up, and you know as a small businessman, people can't get loans.
Can't borrow
There's so
anything.
much regulations on borrowing if the money's not there. It's being stuffed in, in the vaults there and not being released because of the regulations. So small businesses are going out of business.
But in a primary, just to go back to the politics for a minute, in a Republican primary, where the state tends to be conservative, to put it mildly, in terms of our primaries, why would we want to nominate someone in that primary who has that kind of record? Pro Dodd-Frank, more regulation,
Right.
more gun control, taking firearms away, and more importantly, voting over 60% of the time with the other party. Over 60% of the time with the other party. I don't understand the logic of the Washington insiders and frankly the New Hampshire party insiders. This is what's wrong with politics. Stand on principle. Stand on principle. When Ronald Reagan stood on principle
That's right.
twice, and he got conservative Democrats and he pulled people together, and they said he was going to blow up the world, was going to be a terrible president. Turned out to be one of the best. This is what it is. Stand on principle. If we don't, we're going to lose our country.
That's right.
I just want to make one final comment on that point. You know, someday they're going to write the history books about this time that we're all sitting here. It's going to be, let's see, in the year 2000 to 2050, they're going to say two headlines, one or the other. They lost America. That group of clowns lost America. What in the hell were they doing? What were they thinking to allow this to happen? Or they're going to say, like the Patriots in 1776, they stood up and they said, enough is enough. We're going to take control of our government. We're going to stand on principle. We're going to support the Constitution, and we're going to get our country back. That's what I want to be the headline. That's what
Well,
my grandchildren.
you brought up the
that's what I want them to
Constitution.
read.
Okay, New Hampshire has a constitution, okay, and we have the U.S. Constitution. We have states' rights under Article 10 in the U.S. Constitution. We also have states' rights and our own rights under New Hampshire. When you take the oath of office, you pledge to support the U.S. Constitution. When I, as a state representative, take the pledge, I pledge to the U.S. and the New Hampshire Constitution. would you be willing to stand up as a U.S. Senator and say, I pledge to not only the U.S., but the New Hampshire Constitution, and unlike Shaheen, who votes against our Constitution in Washington, on, to protect the people's rights of New Hampshire? Are you willing to take that?
Of course, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I mean, we take an oath to the Constitution, and part of that Constitution is the 10th Amendment.
I mean, I carry both of them because I could never remember verbatim. So and being one of the tri-chairs, I have to know the Constitution. So I have to be able to look up when we put a comment on a bill, is it constitutional or not? I've got to quote a certain article. So that's why I carry them all the time. So it's very important for our federal government, senators in Congress, to comply with New Hampshire.
Well, in a U.S. Senator coming from the state of New Hampshire, I mean, his constituents are here. It just makes sense. Of course, I'm not surprised at all the senator would agree to support that. But I want to make a comment about the Constitution, U.S. and state. When you do take that oath to protect, defend, and uphold the Constitution, whether it be a military guy or state rep, that oath needs to mean something.
That's right.
And if you do raise your hand and you take that oath, and then you're willing to compromise the Constitution and that oath because you vote for a gun bill, a gun restriction bill, or for that matter, you violate the Second Amendment of the Constitution. By the way, the Constitution in its entirety is what's at stake here. The Second Amendment of the Constitution, it's a shame we have to always break it out, because they're always attacking it. But it is, in my view, second because of its importance. Al, if we lose the Second Amendment, we have lost it all. It is the protector of the entire Constitution, and it isn't just about self-defense, which you and I are passionate about, but it is giving the people the right to keep and bear arms and not infringing upon it so that we have the ability to fight back, if need be, against a tyrannical government.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, and the reason that was on my list of things to talk to you about. I'm one of the co-sponsors here in New Hampshire, Stand Your Ground, where family and anybody has the right to protect themselves wherever they have the right to be. Where are you? I know Brown and other, Shaheen voted to take away, voted against the assault weapon, but that's a false statement, assault weapon. An AR-15 is not an assault weapon. An M16 or an 50 cal or a 60 cal are assault weapons, automatic feed. Where are you on those areas? And you have a record, so people can
100%. I had an A+ rating with the NRA for 18 years, A+ rating with the Gun Owners of America and the Gun Owners of New Hampshire. A+, perfect. Right. I didn't have any votes that I'm aware of that were quote unquote wrong.
Why are you perfect? Let me cut you right there. Why are you perfect?
Because it's the Second Amendment is as clear as any amendment in the Constitution. I mean, it's clear, the right to keep and bear arms. That's our right, our constitutional right, and as the New Hampshire Constitution says, our personal right.
That's right.
So, this is what it's all about. It's not hard. I don't have to think about it. Unfortunately, Scott does. I mean, Scott Brown, he will not support reciprocity, so you can carry a gun here in New Hampshire, go across to Massachusetts, they lock you up. Or, like you said, the assault ban, which he is for and I'm not.
And High Capacity Magazine as well. He was in favor of now he didn't vote for those things. I want to clarify this but he clearly said that he was in favor. He said he didn't see why anyone would need a semi-automatic weapon.
He asked me.
He didn't vote for him, but I'm sorry, he showed the willingness to go forward with that kind of stuff.
But you did in Massachusetts.
He did vote for gun control bills in Massachusetts.
He also was praised by Mayor Bloomberg for his stand on that, and Bloomberg, of course, Bloomberg did a fundraiser.
Did he take money from Bloomberg?
Oh, yeah.
Also?
Lots of it.
And Bloomberg has pledged to spend $50 million to bust the NRA.
I'm hoping to get him on here because I want to ask
him. This is serious business, though. I mean, he should come on. But this is serious business. I mean, these are the decisions that we make at this level in these primaries that really determine where and how our country is going to be governed. And we don't get a second chance. If you got two anti-gun people running, what do you gain?
Now, the reason I'm asking some of these questions are very important to residents of my district here in Londonderry. Londonderry has Londonderry Fishing Game Club. We have one of the largest, as I told you earlier, one of the largest gun clubs in the state. They have a waiting list to get in. Matter of fact, they're building a 200, I think, and a 300-yard range right now. They're almost done with that there. They're a great club, but the bottom line is New Hampshire protected gun clubs by saying cities and towns, you cannot make no laws affecting gun clubs. You can't, even deny them. It has to go to the state has to be involved with this here. Will you take a look, bring that information to the Senate, on how New Hampshire is the safest state, one of the safest states in the country, with less gun regulations versus the Chicago, D.C., Detroit. You know what I'm saying? Well, where are you, and how are you going to bring that to maybe educate people in other states to take a look at New Hampshire, take a look at Vermont on their regulations and see what are they doing right?
Facts are facts. I mean, Washington, D.C., Chicago has the strictest gun control
California.
in Washington. And look at the crime in Chicago.
That's
when I walk
right.
down the streets of Chicago, I mean, the facts speak for themselves. It doesn't, I mean, taking guns out of the hands of honest people and leaving the criminals to have them, duh. I mean, come on. But again, it's not debatable. It's a constitutional and personal right under our state and our federal constitutions to be armed to be able to protect yourself.
Right.
Period. There aren't any conditions on that.
How, as a U.S. Senator, can you help New Hampshire attract businesses? Like here in Londonderry, we've got over 1,000 acres of Pettingill. Little by little, they're starting to build. But even under a good economy, they didn't build out near the airport. Okay, but now we have a gold mine here in New Hampshire, right here in Londonderry and Manchester. How can you help Londonderry, which is a ricochet effect for jobs throughout the whole state, to bring in business here and maybe even get our energy costs, come up with some type of energy plan on the federal government so we can link together and drop our energy costs?
You want to jump there?
Well, I think the overall reaction, I just, because this is where I come from on this stuff. Now, so you're talking about the United States Senator, and you're talking about the federal government versus the state from whence he comes. To me, the battle that needs to be fought is a big battle, which is the federal government is out of control, and they're all about regulation, and they're just piling it on and piling it on. Redistributive policies, subsidy. I mean, over half the country is on some kind of subsidy. Hell, let's be honest.
Right.
I mean, it's going to be difficult. But what we've got to do at the federal level is really and truly get the privatization going again, free enterprise working. This country is capable of anything. The entrepreneurship in this country is second to none in the world, period. And we can turn this around very quickly if we get rid of the regulation. I'd like to get rid of, this is me, not the senator, I'd like to get rid of the EPA. The EPA has become, in my view, a domestic terrorist organization with the hard-handedness that they've been using against businesses, the coal industry, and many of the others, because it's based on an ideology now. It doesn't serve the function that it was originally structured to do. What we've got to do is remove that regulation and those regulations. We've got to get our energy programs working. We have more natural gas and oil reserves now we've found than all the Middle East combined. Why in God's name we're not energy independent, I will never know. Yeah. Okay, it's again ideology. You get that sector going along with the free enterprise system and less regulation going, and that then produces, as a ricochet effect, jobs in New Hampshire and every other state.
And as we've traveled around in these candidate forums, one of the issues that's brought up frequently in the governor's race is the jobs drain. I've heard Andrew Hemingway say it many times. You go down, you cross the border, and you see all these new businesses in Massachusetts along 93 or any of the other corridors down. And you come back up here and we see liquor stores and we see shopping centers, but where's the business? Where's the manufacturing?
I agree.
Well, and you have to ask yourself, why is that? Well, it's very simple, and Jack just touched upon it. Regulation. If you think about it, the last several years have been Democrat governors. And I mean, there is a connection here between liberal policies of spend, 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 regulate, 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 tax, tax, tax. And this is not an environment to encourage businesses to come. Supposing you were to cut dramatically the corporate income tax on corporate taxes on businesses, cut the capital gains tax, eliminate it. As far as I'm concerned, and cut the regulations and give the people the impetus, come here. Aren't you tired of hearing all these jobs and businesses going to Texas or North Carolina or some other state where the tax environment is favorable? You know, it used to be favorable here.
Right.
When I first moved here, I heard how great the economy was now, and it was. And now we got more taxes, more spending, more regulation, and businesses are leaving. You want to create jobs, you got to create an environment for businesses to do it. And as Jack also said, this constant competition of the federal government coming in with these huge programs, which just, you know, suck up the energy and suck up they're not supposed to be in the economy. The federal government, when you say, okay, the federal government employs X millions of people, well, those people are being paid by the taxpayers of the United States. So somebody is paying,
Right.
sucking money out of the businesses and pockets of individuals and corporations to pay people who are working for us, supposedly. And so there are numerous agencies. The EPA absolutely can be cut back dramatically. The Department of Education shouldn't exist. You can go down the line with other entities that are way, way over their bounds. And energy, we could create so much energy, so many jobs could be created, not only in New Hampshire, but everywhere in this country if we would just go after the energy that
Right.
we have.
I agree. You know, you just sparked a light bulb in my brain. Last night I had a conversation with my stepdaughter. She works here in town for the Sleep Inn. She's also a full-time college student. But anyway, they're shorthanded. If anyone's looking for a job, by the way, Sleep Inn is hiring. But she worked 36 hours overtime, she in a 2-week period. And she was telling me how, just because of those 36 hours overtime, almost $400 more in taxes. Why are we demonizing people, taking more money out of their pocket because they're working more hours? That makes no sense whatsoever to me at
You know,
all.
and Al, it's even deeper than that, and the senator touched on it, but in the state of New Hampshire, we are the highest corporately taxed state in the country.
Right, yeah, I
That-
agree.
That's unforgivable.
We were going down there under O'Brien there. We were 18,
we're
now
up.
we're up,
Yeah,
I
now
think,
we're back
28
up
to
again,
29.
And it's going to get
That's
worse
right.
if we don't make some
Yes.
changes here. Andrew Hemingway, mentioned his name again, has a dynamic plan to change
Right.
that
I
structure.
like Andrew Hemingway.
And I think that
Good
given
living.
an opportunity, it would do very well and do just what the senator said, which is
Mm-hmm.
to encourage and entice businesses to come here. I have to laugh, by the way. You have businesses, big businesses in New York, just getting out of Dodge. I mean, they are so taxed that
Right.
they're leaving. And now New York's running ads here and in other states saying you got a 10-year moratorium on taxes if you move to New York. How would you feel if you had spent your business career there and owning a business and paid those astronomical taxes? If you saw an ad that basically said, if you're a new business, you don't have to pay any taxes
Right.
for 10 years. You know, I would be at war
Right,
with the
that's
state
right,
over
yeah.
that. But the point is, if you get rid of taxes and you reduce taxes and regulation, you will absolutely invite and entice businesses to come here. And the reason why, it's a great state to live in.
Exactly. And you know, one of the things when we talk to businesses around the state when we travel around, and we've all kinds of business, small, large, you name it, maple syrup to whatever, all kinds of small and large businesses. One of the things that you hear so much is if you've got a business that we call it on the cusp, it's right around 50 employees. If they drop below 50 or whatever that number is, I think it's 50, then the Obamacare, you know, then if they go over the 50, the whole cost through Obamacare is more, and if it drop below a line, so now they would hire people. That's not a reason to make decisions
Right.
on hiring and firing, because it is a reason, unfortunately, but it shouldn't be the reason, because of some federal regulation, one size fits all requirement as we
Right.
have under Obamacare. And we went into a maple syrup guy who just had his little thing all set up, and the sap comes down and they boil it down, et cetera. And you know, you could eat off the floor in the place. It was clean as a whistle. And he was worried about some environmental regulation that may put him out of business. He said, I might just have to close up shop and just buy maple syrup and put it on my retail shelves because I can't afford to produce it if they pass this thing. And
Well,
this is
we're-
what we're doing. This is wrong. But again, I know you're running out of
Yeah.
time. Real quickly, you know, what bothers me as somebody who's running for office, people are so frustrated and so angry and so turned off because they say all you guys do is talk about it. And you know, all I can say is I did more than that. I voted, if you look at if the people had passed the stuff that I voted for, we wouldn't have a debt right now. I guarantee you that, because I voted to balance the budget many times. But unfortunately, that's not what prevailed. We can make a difference if we elect the right people, and that's what we have to do.
Well, I can tell you, many people in my district want the government out of their pockets, out of their house, and out of their backyard. And they don't mind paying tax, but they want a stable tax. We got about a couple of minutes here now.
Out
Tell
of their
me,
computers, too. No more snooping and spying
that's right,
on your
yes, no more. Tell me,
emails.
why do you want, tell the people right now in a minute here why people should vote for you.
Well, I think, first of all, look at the track record. The track record is good. I realize that's yesterday, but it's a good indicator of where we are at the moment. If you know that I've had an A+ rating on guns for 18 years, you know that I voted to deregulate and cut taxes, cut spending, that I'm for more freedoms. I'm saying it again now, and I have an 18-year record of proof to say that that's exactly what I did. That's who I am. I'm the only candidate in this race who 100% supports the Republican platform. Not that the Republicans are always right, but the platform is good. It's positive. It's pro-gun. It's anti-tax. It's anti-spend. It's anti-regulation. It's growth. It's more jobs. It's freedom. That's who we are, and that's what I am. And I don't have any conditions on that, as other candidates do. I'm consistent, and I think that if you really want change, and I think it's about America, if you want to save America, you've got to elect people who are willing to stand on principle and win. You can't win by, what do you win? If you put it, let me put it that way, if you vote for somebody who is not going to stand on the principles that you believe in just to win an election.
Right.
What have you won?
Bob,
That's
yeah.
the bottom line.
How do people get in touch with you?
Bob Smith for USSenate.com. You can find out everything you want to know about me, and if there's something there you don't find, then call me and I'll give you an answer.
Okay, if I wanted to call you, your campaign manager, and put a sign in the yard or something like that, how would I get in touch with him? Because I know you're out talking to people.
Yeah, you can go through the site, or you can call my cell phone number, 603-235-2862, and you'll get me. Happy to talk to you or help you out, or just discuss some of the issues we talked about today.
And I would just say, give us, our campaign, me specifically as a candidate, a chance to once and for all show that we can win on principle, so that we can change America. To win a shallow victory of compromising on issues that we all believe in is not going to do it. Kicking the can down the road, we're just going to get more debt, get more regulation. It's not going to help us.
Okay, and that's our show, and I'm Al Baldessaro, 4-term state representative. I am running for my 5th term. You'll be seeing my signs up here in a couple of weeks. And you know, if you don't know how to get in touch with me, I will give you my number, and that's 425-6997, or call me on my cell, 858-3535, or look me up at my website, www.albaldessaro.com. And thank you for listening, and it's been an honor, Senator
Nice to
Bob.
see you, Al.
Thanks, Al.
Jack, it's always a pleasure to have my friend Jack here, and I was a big supporter for him with Governor. Thank you, and have a great day.